What's up, everyone? I wanted to start doing day in the life videos of my role to help give you an understanding. Platinum morning routine where I ice bath and did an espresso, and no, just kidding. I had a really early surgery today, about an hour and a half drive. So I got out of bed and hopped in my car after putting my scrubs and got on the road, and that was kind of it. I didn't finish the novel I didn't read. It was pretty early. I left the house around 4:45, partly because I want to get out before traffic and get down to the hospital. That's about an hour 15. With traffic, it would be 2 hours. And if I got stuck in traffic, I would be stressing about missing the start of the case. Get down here, I was able to get to a coffee shop, keep me fueled, thank you, do a little bit of work, and prep for this case. We're at a smaller account that's been really supportive of me. I stepped in recently. I've been, in this role for 3 years, 5 years in the TAVR space, and took over this account. Oh man, maybe 6 to 12 months ago, and recently got a lot of traction. So, when I prepare for these cases, you can't see, but in the back, I got all my product. I got my lead, right, which is something I wear to protect against radiation from the fluoroscopy. I'm going to go in, and my objective is one, to have a really good case, and I'm prepared, right? I have my product, which is a heart valve, minimally invasive heart valve. I have backup in case something happens, right? If we drop it or whatever happens, who knows? And I have accessories that are maybe not my company's, but support my case, right? So wires, I have balloons and different things, just because I want to be ready for whatever we get into in this case. And what's nice is in my division is we're implanting implantable products, so a heart valve, and the cases are scheduled. A lot of these patients have to go through a workup that include multiple visits, so we're not getting add-ons or calls during the day, hey, can you rush over here? There's some accounts where that happens for a unique reason, but 99% of the time these cases are scheduled and you have a heads up. So I'm going to go into the hospital with my lead, all the product, and my computer and iPad, and I have a CT summary, so a specific report for this patient that we're treating today that measured the heart, the access to the heart, and it's tailored to the patient. And we're going to be ready to discuss with the physicians, a physician team who have reviewed the case already and selected Medtronic Evolute. I'm going to have the product I mentioned, and then I'm going to have a couple sales objectives, right? My first and foremost goal is to have a really successful case, and that looks like a great outcome and where we get done with the case in an efficient amount of time. But there's a couple stakeholders that I want to meet with at the hospital, and I'm not the most extroverted person. For me, I don't want to come off calculated, but I like to have a couple ideas of what conversations or what I want to say to each person, right? I'm going to meet with 2 physicians for the case. There's also other implanting physicians in the hospital that I would like to run into. So I'll use this opportunity. Since I'm invited to the cath lab to support this case, I'm going to try to find the other physicians after. There's a valve program coordinator, which is the nurse that leads the structural heart program, which is my product program. There's admin and supply chain who I want to talk to review a recent new contract and changes, and also supplies for the future. Most important is the cath lab team, the nurses, techs, and everyone that supports these patients and cases and helps the physicians, helps the turnover, helps everything. With them, not really any objective. I just like to respect them, be extremely considerate, because they help a lot. A lot of people underestimate the importance of this team, but the techs and nurses help make your life so much easier, from pulling product to being welcoming to helping you find scrubs, especially in competitive accounts when physicians are nice but maybe you're a little bit uncomfortable. The staff can really make you feel comfortable and help you, right, and give you a little bit of sales information and business acumen, but really just from the day-to-day, helping you get scrubs and where to go and point you in the right direction, or tell you what the doctor prefers, what wires or catheters, is super helpful. So today, it's just a random Thursday. There's fires happening in Los Angeles, right? But we still have to go out and serve patients. So I can't take the day off because I have to support every case I do, every case of my valve. We have to be there, right? So there are fires, there's a lot of fires. We still have to, get up early and get out there and support. Today, my main goal is to have a great case, and then 2 is to not be overwhelmed by the sales number for the year or the future, but what can I do today to keep driving towards that goal? And I have a couple ideas of the conversations I want to have with each of the stakeholders I mentioned, and I'll talk about that after I get back. So here we go. All right, we're leaving the hospital. We had a really good case. First and foremost, the biggest objective was to have an efficient case where we delivered a great clinical outcome. That would kill your business if you're making mistakes in these surgeries or you're not getting the results the doctors want from the data. Then you're dead in your water, right? So these are, communicating to the doctors, picking the right cases where your product or our valve can shine and do well. Pre-case planning, that's all important, right? So we went in, we delivered a great result, and I talked about having a little bit of a list for each of the stakeholders I wanted to talk to. First, we hit the implanting physicians. It was 2. What's interesting is this procedure has 2 physicians in the room. You have an interventional cardiologist and a cardiothoracic surgeon. Really unique in medical device to have 2 physicians working in tandem. A lot of cases you have, the orthopedic surgeon and anesthesia working. This, we do have anesthesia for support, but we also have 2 physicians working hand in hand, which is really, really fun. So I also talked to them, strengthened the relationship, tried to move the needle on the relationship, but also talked about some recent data, and I try to do that through storytelling. I don't like to dump data facts. I try to make it emotional, connect to their patients, connect to them. I do know the data really well and can go down that path, but a lot of physicians are turned off by data and numbers and this and that, and it's more relatable when you tell in a story, and for me it's easier to do an emotional story than a numerical story. I also talked about hitting supply chain. Unfortunately, we did not have the opportunity. We did not find them. They are busy. For them, it's maintaining supplies, making sure we have everything we need for our cases, but also reiterating the strength of our contract and what we need to do to hit certain incentives. I'm also trying to get it from the service line director, which is a little bit harder as they have meetings and are busy, but they also, beat the drum of the lab in the direction and strategy, and it would be good for them to be aware of where we need to be for the hospital to save money and the clinical benefits. Cath lab members, great, all really great people. We're working with nurses, CVTs, RTs, the people operating the fluoroscopy. For them, I just like to have a fun time with them. They're really nice, really supportive, really awesome. They do hard work with the patients. So being allowed in the lab with them is amazing, and I try to make my requests as small as possible, right? Because I go in with my own product, but I'm also asking them for product off their shelves, and they're busy setting up the room and the case, so they don't want to be burdened by all my requests. So case went well. I hit my objectives. I also stuck around the hospital. My favorite spot's the cath lab, obviously, or the cafeteria to find the other docs. Found one of the other implanting doctors who will be important for my business in this hospital. We had a good conversation, caught up on the new year. And you could also keep your eye out for referring physicians and just remind them what's happening. And with them, it's a little bit less storytelling, just giving them a kind of general updates on your product or the state of the business. Now I am going to run over to eat somewhere. I got up super early for this. Like I said, I had my platinum morning routine, which is no ice bath, no G in my coffee, no whatever else people do. It was just out of bed. So I'm going to go eat and then run to a coffee shop and try to hit up another hospital right next door. I'm pretty far from my home base. So when I do get pulled out of the territory, hour and a half, 2, I like to touch all the accounts down here and be really efficient. And then I'm going to backtrack this whole day to hit other customers. So here we just finished up, like I said, at an account that's beginning to use us. We're having momentum, traction. I talked about all the people I wanted to talk to. I'm going to eat real quick, get on my laptop to finish up some admin paperwork and order processing and see if there's anything urgent on my phone. And then I'm going to go door knock on another hospital and try to connect with anyone there by just showing up. And that would be a pretty competitive account is what we call it, where we have 0 market share. We do have product on shelf or our contracts approved, but getting traction has been a little bit hard. So our job is to get in there and iterate the benefits of our valve or our product, right, and get them on board. All right, be back soon. What's up? All right. We missed some action, but we went to the coffee shop. I always like to do that, wrap up some of the case paperwork, get my cases registered, meaning put all the patient information, what device went in, what serial number. That triggers to my internal Medtronic system and
puts me on the board with, that revenue and implant. So that's great. I get the paperwork to the supply chain so I can receive the revenue and the PO from the hospital. I also make sure there's no fires I need to put out via email or text. Usually, so when I scrub in, I don't have access to my phone. I'm still, right? I'm in a gown with gloves on. So I see if there's any fires. And that could be hospitals reaching out, schedule changes, my own team reaching out about something. So I addressed all that, went on my computer to address some pertinent emails. I don't do my sales prospecting at this time. It was just fire, put out the fires. Ran over to a different hospital, and reps deal with access, right? One of the biggest things you're going to deal with as a med sales rep is getting access. And how do you get access to the physicians or the key stakeholders that are going to drive change and grow your business, right? So there's a lot of ways to do that. If you've been around for a while, you're not that new, so it's hard to say, hey, you want to meet for a coffee and introduce myself. So you had to find creative ways. Sometimes it's bringing lunch to the cath lab. Sometimes it could be doing a product training, education, which is really common. There's many ways to get access. The most informal way I do now is just to walk into the hospital and go to the cath lab or the cafeteria and try to catch doctors in their break and let them know I'm alive and review product. So I tried to do that today at a really competitive account, meaning I don't have that much access. I don't get really scheduled cases, which is, when you have a scheduled case, you're invited in and you're there for a set time, so doctors aren't surprised to see you, right? But when you're going in unbeknownst to anyone, it could catch people off guard. And since COVID, I would say there's been more regulation and people are more strict, especially the OR, with random reps dropping in. Years ago, you just go into the hospital and hang out in the room, and it was no big deal. Go hang out in the break room or whatnot. So I went to the hospital. My goal is, we're starting 2025. I need to get on the board at this hospital, and I wanted to talk to them about access to the new valve, right? I want to talk to the valve program coordinators. I want to talk to the physicians. Really exciting news. That didn't go well. I couldn't find anyone, and no one wanted to meet when I called them. So we're going to try again. Unfortunately, there's a lot of times that happens. There's not wins every single day. I had a great case, so that was a win. I was in the area, so I tried to go to the other hospital to push that a little bit, but it is what it is. The next part about med device sales, especially for a territory where you cover many hospital accounts, is there's a lot of driving. So I've been in the car now for about an hour, and I need to think about how to use my time effectively. It's now illegal to text in California, so I don't want to be texting while driving, but I do a lot of phone calls now, hands-free. And a lot of times it's a couple things. It's people on LinkedIn wanting to learn about med device. I'll always be open to talk to you about that. But I also talk to buddies across the states that I went to training with. And one is great to catch up, right? It's a New Year's holiday, see how them and their families are doing. But we also talk a little bit about business and what challenges they're facing and any success they have had recently with different resources, right? So every physician and account is different, but there are some similarities that you could bracket these different physician types or accounts by. So by talking to my colleagues across the states, we could share ideas and think of different ways to approach our business and the customers to help drive business. So I had a really good conversation with a buddy I went to training with 5 years ago. We came in as clinicals and both got promoted into sales, which is really rare. So it was great talking to him about how he's doing, but we also talked about KOL management. KOL is key opinion leaders, and for the most part, those are the directors of the hospitals. They've been in TAVR or this space for a really long time, and they beat the drum and influence the kind of the clinical and education around TAVR in the United States and world. So we talked a little bit about that, and we talked a little bit about kind of sales and our career aspirations, and also some of the new leadership, because he's right by our headquarters, so he has access to a lot of the local senior leaders. And it was really refreshing to hear that he's impressed with some of the new leaders that joined Medtronic, and if I wanted to use them as a resource, invite them out to meet with my customers, they are now vetted, where my colleague who I trust said, yeah, hey, they're awesome in front of customers, they're really good. And sometimes as a rep, you feel pressure to bring out your senior leader or your managers to meet with customers, and it's a total bomb because maybe their personalities don't mesh or you don't know how they act. You know your customers really well, right? So you want to set up for the best experience. And by knowing the customers you bring out with the senior leaders, you can do that, right? So we continue to drive. If I'm not making phone calls, what I'm doing is, I listen to a lot of music. I love music, but over time, music can get a little bit repetitive. So I would do audiobooks or podcasts. That's always fun. But, also over time, if you're driving a ton, sometimes noise gets repetitive. So sometimes I drive in silence. I think my favorite is just to do a lot of my calls. And a lot of industry calls, so internal calls with Medtronic or my team are midday after surgeries. And a lot of those I can hop on and listen to, which is great. And that's more of just growing my skills or just, doing a task list for internal tidying up and cleanup lists. And now it's midday, it's 12. My plan is to get back to my home. There's one more account. So my third account I want to drop into the day, and there's a clinic nearby. So my goal is to drop into the hospital, reach out with the excuse of, oh, hey, I thought there was some CDs or something I need to pick up. Go into the lab, see the people I need to see what the plan is for January. I'm closing my quarter right now, so I'm trying to forecast where I'll be at, see what's on the schedule, and also keep pushing, the momentum. And then after that, I'll get home. There's a couple of things I need to do admin. So a lot of the sales process I like to do in person. I've been with Medtronic 10 years, and it's always been, relationships matter, especially in person. There's been, a trend to move towards more remote or sales process like that. And I think that's very effective, but I use remote emails, texts to supplement my in-person relationships. And for me, it always starts with the Matt Abrams brands, the product I sell, which is TAVR, and then lastly, what is, some importance is the company I work for, Medtronic, which is, I feel, a very quality company. But I always sell myself first, the Matt Abrams experience, and I could tell you what the Matt Abrams brand is in person, but that's who these doctors are buying and believing in. And because of that, it starts with in-person relationship building and prospecting. And then from there, I can reinforce and supplement and grow my business through online means, right? And that is important because a territory like mine is very large. Or some territories, you can see all your accounts in hospitals in a day. I don't have that luxury. I don't have to fly anywhere, but I do have a large geography that's affected by the famous LA traffic. So I need to be very efficient with my time. And that's why I was kind of talking about how I was in the area. I wanted to go see accounts because I don't want to go drive another day to just drop in. If I had an appointment, I'm always happy to drive something formal. But if it's the drop-ins, that's when I really try to be efficient. So I'm going to wrap up. You won't see me at the end of the day, but I'm going to go to another account, pick up the CDs, and use that as an excuse to go see the cath lab and mill around to see who I can run into. And here it's going to be seeing one of the lead nurses, trying to find a couple of the doctors, the surgeons, that keep pushing up the narrative. And I'm going to follow up on a story of data I sent them earlier before the holidays. And usually the holidays I shut down, right? Christmas, New Year's, I'm around for add-on and emergent cases. But it's hard to really grow the business when things are so slow and a lot of doctors are on vacation. So I'll follow up on that, see what 2025, specifically January, is looking at. Then I'm going to drive home. And on my drive home, what's awesome to be efficient, I have a call with internal Medtronic reviewing a visiting team. There's a team of physicians and Medtronic employees from a foreign country that want to come visit one of my hospitals to see one of the products that we have in the United States as they prepare for their product launch in their home country. So that would be really awesome. So we'll do a logistics call to go over all that, which is nice because I get bored in the call and I listened to about 2 hours of audiobook already. And then when I get home, I'm going to look at the rest of my week. I already ordered product for tomorrow for my next case. I'm set there. I'm going to look at next week to see if I need any specific. Ooh.
Awesome. I'm still learning the recording capabilities, but we wrapped up. We hit 3 accounts, had a really good implant, hit all the priorities there. Second account was a airball, a strikeout, whatever you want to call it. Don't look at it that way. Don't connotate it with negative. That is sales. We got to keep getting in there, and I'll find another way next week. Third account was good.
Didn't find all the physicians, but did get the CDs and some intel, which is really important. The staff and the nurses could give you a lot of intel to help shape your strategy to how to grow business. So now I'm home. I'm actually in a work from home spot. Med device, I work on the road a lot. I don't really have an office at home, so I like to go to spaces like this to do some of my high level work. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on the computer, I'm going to size a couple of the CDs I picked up. And what that means is I picked up a CD with a CT TAVR, which is basically a mini x-rays to create a 2D image of the heart. And I'm going to use this reconstruction software, basically very special software, to size the heart. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure the heart and understand what valve size we recommend. We have 4 valves, and I'm going to suggest a valve based on the patient's tailored CT analysis. I'm also going to do some sales emails to follow up on a couple things. There's always clinical data and papers coming out, and I want to stay abreast to all of that. And recently there was a very good recorded video that I watched that really changed my perspective, and I deal with this every day. So I'm going to link that video and send it to a few physicians, hoping it provides them the same perspective. And then we're going to wrap up my day. I'm a little under the weather, but most days I'm trying to get into the gym, surfing, or doing some activity. But you also got to understand, I started my day at 4:35, and that's a little bit early and not the usual, but we typically start early. So I like to end my day with a stress-free activity, and I think it's really healthy to go exercise. I love playing basketball, and I also love surfing because it gets me away from my phone. One of the biggest things that med device reps suffer with is they're always near their phone, and a friend texts them and they hear the chime and they're like, oh, a doctor, I gotta go look at it. It's a terrible habit. Phones are super unhealthy. So that's why I love playing basketball or surfing, because I have to put my phone down. If I lift, I can still have my phone on me. So that's why I really love those activities. And after a long day of driving and standing in the heavy lead, so the lead apron that you wear, it's important to be mobile, to stretch, to get that activity. And then I'll go home. I won't do any work tonight, I'm not going to lie to you. There's nothing to do. I'll prepare for Friday, which is usually a little bit quieter. I have that one case. My car already has a product in it. We'll knock out that case. And usually Friday afternoons, I like to prepare for the next week. So that is a Thursday in the day of the life of Matt Abrams, doing medical device sales, TAVR heart valve. We're going to keep posting more of these so you get a real sense of what a day in the life is like.